Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a high-stakes geopolitical drama unfolding in Nigeria, where a massive security crisis has just kicked off a tense tug-of-war between the United States and Russia.
So you've got Nigeria, a country facing a potential security collapse. And then, bam, two of the world's biggest powers make completely opposite moves. Suddenly, a national crisis has become a global standoff. Okay, let's get into how this all happened.
So, what is really going on here? To understand this, we've got to look at the opening moves in this high-stakes chess match.
It all really came to a head in late 2025. Nigeria's security situation was getting worse and worse, and then two starkly different messages came out of Washington and Moscow, and everyone started paying attention.
And the contrast here is just incredible. On one side, you have the U.S. with a blunt threat of military intervention, and on the other, Russia comes in with a direct offer of partnership. This move immediately put Nigeria right in the middle of a global tug-of-war.
But why are these global powers suddenly so interested? To really get that, we first need to understand the sheer scale of the crisis that basically opened the door for them to get involved. I mean, just look at this. Nigeria isn't fighting one single enemy, it's fighting multiple, serious insurgencies all at once. From banditry up in the northwest to Boko Haram in the northeast, the country's security forces are stretched to their absolute breaking point.
So how did it get so bad? Well, you can actually trace a direct line back to the collapse of Libya in 2011. That event basically created a superhighway for weapons, flooding West Africa with military-grade arms. The result? Today, many of these criminal and terror groups in Nigeria are actually better equipped than the national security forces.
It was this perfect storm, this absolute chaos, that caught the attention of the White House, and it led to a really stunning and aggressive public statement from President Donald Trump.
In a fiery social media post, Trump didn't just condemn the violence, he flat-out threatened direct U.S. military intervention. He went on to accuse the Nigerian government of allowing the persecution of Christians, which signaled a massive potential shift in American policy.
And let's be clear, this wasn't a threat against some tiny state. We're talking about the idea of foreign boots on the ground in a nation of over 200 million people, the giant of Africa. This sent absolute shockwaves across the continent and, really, the entire world.
You can imagine the reaction inside Nigeria, right? It was this mix of fear and, frankly, a lot of anger. Many were terrified of losing their sovereignty. Officials immediately pushed back on the idea that this was purely a religious conflict, pointing out that victims came from all faiths. The message was pretty clear. Help is welcome, threats are not.
So, just as Nigeria was reeling from this American threat, Russia saw its opening. It stepped right onto the stage with a completely different approach. And Moscow's offer, well, it was a masterclass in soft power. It offered concrete solutions. We're talking advanced weapons, intel, professional training, but it wrapped it all in the language of partnership and respect for sovereignty. It was the polar opposite of the American ultimatum. And this was a brilliant move because it created a powerful narrative inside Nigeria. On social media, the comparison was everywhere, and this really potent question started circulating. Wait a minute, why is one superpower threatening us while another one is offering respect? Okay, so let's pull back the curtain here. It's crucial to understand that this isn't about simple humanitarian concern. Not at all. Both the US and Russia are playing a much larger strategic game, and Nigeria is the chessboard.
This table really breaks it all down. The publicly stated motives, protecting Christians or fighting terror, that's just the surface. Underneath, both sides have much deeper strategic goals, everything from domestic politics to challenging global dominance.
For the U.S., this is about way more than just Nigeria's internal security. It's about American domestic politics. That threat plays really well to Trump's conservative Christian base. It's also about countering rivals like Russia and China. And of course, securing access to Nigeria's vital resources and influence.
And for Russia, this is a golden opportunity. Nigeria is, without a doubt, the biggest prize in its whole strategy to build up partnerships across West Africa. Securing an alliance here sends a powerful message on the world stage, and it's a huge long-term investment.
So, what does all this mean for the future? This tug-of-war over Nigeria isn't just about one country. It's a sign of a fundamental tectonic shift in global power.
You see, the era of a unipolar world where one superpower calls all the shots is over. We are now living in a multipolar world where you have a whole bunch of global players all competing for influence. And that changes the rules of the game for everybody,
especially for developing nations.
And here it is. This is the real game changer. Unlike in the past, African nations are no longer just passive players in these big geopolitical contests. With multiple global suitors all trying to get their attention, they can now negotiate from a position of real strength, playing competitors against each other for the best possible deals.
Nigeria's dilemma proves this perfectly. African nations now have choices, and that's a power they really haven't had on this scale in modern history. The ability to choose their partners is their new strategic advantage.
This whole drama in Nigeria is really just a preview of the new great game. But it's a game where African nations are no longer just pawns on the board. In fact, their choices will increasingly shape not just their own destiny, but the global balance of power itself.